Hello and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Al24 News. I'm Abdurrahim Kashur, and to the headlines. Although over the past 24 hours, Kharkiv was shelled 32 times, as a result of which the northern Saltivka area suffered the most, the armed forces of Ukraine are not allowing the enemy to advance any further. The Taliban has ordered secondary girls' schools in Afghanistan to shut March 23rd, just hours after they reopened, saying they would remain closed until a plan was drawn up in accordance to their new laws. World #1 tennis player Ashley Barty has rocked the sporting world as she announced her shock retirement from the game at the age of 25. Starting our news bulletin with the latest updates over Ukraine-Russia conflicts. Agreement has been reached to try evacuate civilians trapped in Ukrainian towns and cities through the 9 humanitarian corridors on Wednesday. French authorities says a convoy of rescue vehicles and emergency equipment is to leave Paris on Wednesday to be provided to Ukraine's emergency service. The UN says that 10 million people have now fled their homes since the Russian military operation in Ukraine has been launched. The bombing of the city of Kharkiv in eastern Ukraine, which is not more than 50 kilometers from the Russian border, continues to intensify. Attacks caused the flight as a large number of the city's population of 2 million. Those who remain in the city are in a daily struggle for survival. Hussein Burkan.
At least 500 people have been killed in the city of Kharkiv since Russia launched its special military operation in Ukraine on February 24. Ukraine's second largest city, located in the country's northeast, has been subjected to relentless bombardments by Russian forces for weeks.
10 minutes ago, they were firing like crazy. They were really pounding the area up the road. This is a residential area, and it happens a lot. Every half hour they reload.
Kharkiv has suffered constantly shelling by Russian forces. Although they have not been able to take control of the city, the bombing has caused catastrophic damage. Residents from the bombarded city shared their testimony, describing the situation as a cold hell.
There was terrible shelling. It was not a bam, more of a whistle. 3 terrible whistles. It's a cold hell.
I hope they will end this soon, so that our children can live. May Putin be gone.
Kharkiv, before the Russian operation last month, had about 2 million residents, including foreign students studying in its faculties. But today, no more than 500,000 remain, after the majority of the population has migrated to safer areas. Whoever wanted to stay did so with the aim of fighting the Russians or to provide assistance to those in need or who were unable to leave for financial reasons.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky denounced the inhuman conditions in the city of Mariupol, which he described as being under constant bombardments. He also reaffirmed that his country will continue to work to push Russia towards peace.
As of today, there are about 100,000 people in the city of Mariupol, in inhumane conditions, in a complete blockade, no food, no water, no medicines, and a fire from constant shelling, under constant shelling. For more than a week, we have been trying to organize reliable humanitarian corridors for the residents of Mariupol, and almost all our attempts, unfortunately, are hampered by the Russian occupiers.
A senior U.S. defense official said Tuesday that Russian ships in the Sea of Azov have been shelling Mariupol from offshore from the past 24 hours. The official said that there are about 7 Russian ships in the area. However, the official said that the U.S. did not see any signs that ships in the Black Sea were firing on Odessa, as they had done days ago. According to the authorities, the U.S. estimates that Russia has roughly 21 ships in the Black Sea, including a dozen surface combatants, warships, and some troops carrying landing ships. Since the beginning of the Russian military operation in Ukraine on February 24th, the infrastructure of some Ukrainian cities has been destroyed. Here is the aftermath of this destruction. 10 hospitals had been completely destroyed, according to the Ukrainian health minister. More than 300 health facilities lie within conflict lines on areas that Russia claims to control, according to World Health Organization. Government officials have said that more than 60 schools have been damaged during the attacks. Mariupol, a port city of the Azov Sea, has been under siege and bombing with no food, medicine, power or fresh water since the early days of the conflict. Ukraine describes the situation in Mariupol as very difficult. Nabil Khazini on What Follow.
The scene in Mariupol is like this: smoke covering the sky of the city, and the sound of bombs have become something usual. These satellite images show how the city has changed in recent weeks. Only 80% of Mariupol is left. Prosecutor General of Ukraine says that genocide is happening in the southeastern Ukrainian city.
Actually, I try to be very cold prosecutors and look at the qualification. What now I see in Mariupol, it's not about war, it's about genocide.
With no water and no electricity, nearly 350,000 citizens are trapped in Mariupol. There is no other hope except leaving from a place where deaths are not possible to be counted.
We urgently call on all the International Committee of the Red Cross, the UN, which must ensure and guarantee that on the humanitarian corridors there will be no capture of the state emergency services. For those declared in the aid convoys, we urgently call for everything to be done to liberate our people.
Geographically, the city of Mariupol occupies only a tiny area on the map. If Mariupol is seized, Russia would end up with full control of more than 80% of Ukraine's Black Sea coastline, cutting off Ukraine maritime trade and further isolating the country from the world.
According to the Luhansk region's governor, Russian shelling hit an apartment building in the town of Robozhin in the Ukrainian-controlled part of Luhansk. Following that, governor of the Luhansk region said an agreement has been reached on a local ceasefire in order to allow for the evacuation of civilians trapped by fighting. In northwest Kiev, report says that the deadly drone hit a building of the Institute of Superhard Materials as rescue teams inspect the scene and recover the drone used during the attack. A Ministry of Defense intelligence official said at the scene that 3 people had died, but there was no further confirmation of the death toll. Russian Prime Minister Sergei Lavrov accused the United States of obstructing the difficult negotiations with Ukraine. The head of the Russian diplomacy believes that Washington's goal is to dominate the world order.
The negotiations have started, and they are difficult. The Ukrainian side, although it has understood that some things must be agreed during the negotiations, always changes its position and rejects its own proposals. It is difficult to get rid of the impression that our American colleagues hold them by the hand. This is about a world order in which the United States wants to be the only sovereign and dominant country.
Kremlin spokesman said that Russia would only use nuclear weapons if it faced an existential threat, and that the Russian special military operation in Ukraine is proceeding strictly according to the pre-established plans and goals. He added that they have a concept of maintaining their security, and if there is an existential threat to their country, nuclear weapons can be used according to that concept.
We've been trying to convey our concerns to the world, to Europe, to the United States, for a couple of decades, but no one would listen to us. And before it is too late, it was a decision to launch a special military operation, to get rid of entire Russia that was created next to our borders. So if it is an existential threat for our country, then it can be used in accordance with our concept.
The Russian Ministry of Defense publishes images of the launch of Caliber cruise missiles and Bastion missile systems. The ministry indicates that they were launched on infrastructures of Ukrainian armed forces. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says that the U.S. can consider a collective alliance NATO response to a cyber attack if requested by an ally. Cybersecurity experts confirmed that mounting evidence that Russia has its sights set on the U.S., that the activity is believed to be associated with cyber actors who previously conducted destructive cyber activity against foreign critical infrastructure.
And we could see circumstances in which a collective response by the alliance to a cyber attack would be called by an ally. That is absolutely something where we and other countries could bring capabilities to bear to help a country both defend itself and respond to a particular cyber attack. Now, that's not necessarily the same thing as a military response. That response could take many different forms. But we have made clear through NATO documents now, not just last year, but going back years, that cybersecurity is an alliance issue.
Russian President Vladimir Putin plans to attend the G20 summit in Indonesia later this year. Russia's ambassador to Jakarta said on Wednesday, following calls from some members to ban the country from joining the group. Ambassador Lodymyr Varboryev said in a press conference that not only the G20 but many organizations are trying to expel Russia and that the reaction of the West is completely unreliable. U.S. President Joe Biden is traveling to Europe on a mission to reinforce Western unity and strengthening sanctions against Russia over its military operation in Ukraine. Mariam Zian has more to tell.
President Joe Biden is heading to Europe to meet with his allies to hold talks on Russia's military operation in Ukraine. The talks that came after the Kremlin spokesperson's refusal to exclude nuclear weapons use will be held in Brussels and include discussions with NATO and European leaders over plans for more sanctions on Moscow.
He will attend an emergency NATO summit, joined by the leaders of the other 29 NATO allies. He will join the G7 leaders, and he will address the 27 leaders of the European Union at a session of the European Council. He will have the opportunity to coordinate on the next phase of military assistance to Ukraine. He will join our partners in imposing further sanctions on Russia and tightening the existing sanctions to crack down on evasion and to ensure robust enforcement.
The Wall Street Journal said that the White House is planning to impose sanctions on 300 members of the Russian parliament in retaliation for Russia's military operation. The American president will also visit Warsaw for consultations with his Polish counterpart. Biden will visit U.S. soldiers in Poland and speak with experts working on the humanitarian response to the tens of thousands of Ukrainians who have fled their nation, as well as those who have remained. The intense diplomacy comes at a critical juncture in the conflict with Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is attempting to keep Ukraine away from its pro-Western path.
Following Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's speech in the Italian parliament, Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi declared that Italy stands alongside Ukraine in the process of joining the European Union.
We want to chart a course to bring Ukraine closer to Europe. In recent weeks, it has been stressed that the process of joining the European Union is long and involves the reforms necessary to ensure an effective integration. I wish to tell President Zelensky that Italy is by Ukraine's side in this process. Italy wants Ukraine in the European Union.
L'Italia vuole l'Ucraina nell'Unione Europea.
Total Energies, the French energy giant, announced Tuesday that it has decided to stop buying Russian oil and petroleum by the end of the year. The corporation announced in a statement that due to the developing situation in Ukraine, it will gradually halt its activities in Russia. It is also emphasized the existence of alternative sources of oil supply for Europe. To a different matter now, Chinese authorities have announced that so far no survivor have been found after a plane carrying 132 people crashed in southern China. There had been no official word on casualties until China's Civil Aviation Administration held its news briefing around 36 hours after the disaster. While the cause of the crash is not yet clear, an official from the Civil Aviation Administration of China announced.
As the investigation has just started, the current information does not allow us to make a clear judgment on the cause of the accident. The investigation team will make every effort to collect evidence from all parties. We'll focus on finding the flight recorders at the scene of the incident. The team will perform an analysis based on the information provided and will thoroughly and completely identify the cause of the accident.
The Taliban ordered schoolgirls in Afghanistan to close barely hours after they reopened on March 23rd, claiming they would remain closed until a plan was worked out to reopen them in conformity with Islamic law. After months of limitations on education for schoolgirls, the Taliban education ministry announced last week that schools for all pupils, including girls, will open across the nation. However, Afghan girls will not be able to attend school until further notice.
I feel very happy as our country is secure. I'm thrilled that the schools are reopening for the girls. Thank God we're able to go outside like we could in the past, just the same as we were doing previously. Now I don't have any concern about what I have to wear or whether to go to school or not. My family has allowed me, and thank God. Now the Taliban has also given us permission to go to school. We're very happy.
The Algerian Sonatrach subsidiary Asmadal and Manal signed Tuesday in Algiers with the Chinese companies a shareholders pact for the creation and partnership of joint stock company under the Algerian law to initiate parliamentary activities relating to development of integrated phosphate project. The new company, called Algerian Chinese Fertilizer Company, is 56% owned by the Algerian party and 44% by the Chinese party, representing an investment of approximately $7 billion, and this is the first integrated project in Algeria in the field of mining and fertilizer production, according to data obtained during the signing ceremony. More international news in this roundup by Islam Seed.
A massive deadly tornado hit the eastern area of New Orleans on Tuesday evening, causing severe havoc and killing at least one person in St. Bernard Parish region. The twister followed an outbreak of tornadoes in Texas on Monday. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern said on Wednesday that New Zealand will ease its health boundaries, including sports events and concerts, this week, after the number of cases risen, estimating the population largely immune.
We're not tired for nothing. The sacrifices and hard work has brought us here today, and now with more tools and one of the most highly vaccinated populations in the world, we are able to keep moving forward safely. It's meant we're able to welcome back New Zealanders, family, friends and tourists, and take the next steps on our journey of reopening and recovery.
A man on the FBI's wanted list has been granted asylum in Belarus. Evan Newman fled the U.S. after being charged in connection with the riots on the U.S. Capitol of January 6, 2021. Two of the presidential candidates, Valérie Pécresse and Éric Zemmour, are taking part in a debate organized by the conservative weekly Valeurs Actuelles.
First of all, Emmanuel Macron is a skeptic. As you have well understood, whether he's talking about nuclear power, pensions, agriculture, or even migration, he is prepared to say everything and the opposite of everything.
I wasn't immersed in Christianity. You see, it's not my childhood. They are not my parents. It's not my family. It's not my history. But instead, I came back to Christianity through France.
Human Rights Watch released a report on Wednesday saying that the Ugandan government has failed to hold to account security officials who have lawfully detained and tortured hundreds of government critics, opposition supporters, peaceful protesters and others.
World number one Ashley Barty has shocked the sporting world by announcing she will retire from professional tennis at just 25 years old. The Australian made the announcement on social media on Wednesday, saying she was leaving to chase other dreams. She said she was absolutely spent and physically, I have nothing more to give. It's worth mentioning to be listed that Barty won 3 Grand Slam single events including this year's Australian Open in January.
I particularly want to say thank you to you, Ash, for inspiring a generation of young people, and particularly a generation of young Indigenous people in this country. You are all class. Your commitment to excellence in your chosen field in tennis. You're a great cricketer, you're a great tennis player. I'm sure anything you turned your hand to, you are going to be a great success, and I have no doubt that will be the case as you go forward with the next chapters in your life.
I'll be retiring from tennis, and it's the first time I've actually said it out loud, and yeah, it's hard to say, but I'm so happy and I'm so ready, and I just know at the moment in my heart for me as a person, this is right. And I know I've done this before, but in a very different feeling. And I'm so grateful to everything that tennis has given me. It's given me all of my dreams plus more. But I know that the time is right now for me to step away and chase other dreams, and to put the rackets down.
To this point, this is a reminder for our main top stories. Although over the past 24 hours, Kharkiv was shelled 32 times, as a result of which the northern Saltivka area suffered the most, the armed forces of Ukraine are not allowing the enemy to advance any further. Taliban has ordered secondary girls' school in Afghanistan to shut March 23rd, just hours after they reopened, saying they would remain closed until a plan was drawn up in accordance to their new laws to reopen. World number 1 tennis player Ashley Barty has rocked the sporting world as she announced her stark retirement from the game at the age of 25. That's all the news we have got for today's bulletin. Thank you so much for being with us, and have a blessed evening.